So there are two relationships we have with Allah. We have a relationship of love with Allah, a closeness with Allah, but we also have a relationship of respect for Allah and fear of Allah and the fear of the majesty of Allah.
I have a question about the royal we. I don't really understand it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in different places, إِنَّا سَنُلْقِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا إِنَّ لَدَيْنَا أَنْكَالًا وَجَحِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could also say, Allahu سَيُلْقِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا. So I don't understand the difference what the royal means. So if I build this building with 10 another engineers and someone asks me who built it, I will even lie and say I built it to take all the credits. So we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built this world, and even so he say we built it.
Yeah.
Why we are not Allah?
Okay. So it's a fantastic question. I've answered this question many years ago in a lecture on we in the Quran. It's on Bayyinah TV, but I'm going to give you a brief answer. First question you have to ask yourself is, what are the pronouns that are used for Allah in the Quran? All of them. So there's I, there's we, there's anta, you, and there's huwa, he, right? These are all the pronouns. So ana, nahnu, anta, and huwa. The first observation is, if this was truly plural, nahnu is plural, then you shouldn't just have anta, you should also have antum. And you shouldn't just have huwa, you should also have hum, right? Because this is, in Arabic we say mutakallim, mukhatab, ghaib. In English we say first person, second person, third person. The plural is only in the first person, and it's never found in the second person, it's never found in the third person. We don't say antum maulana or mawalina, we say anta maulana, right? Innaka anta al-ghafurur rahim, right? So we are al-azizul hakim. And inna allaha huwa al-ghafurur rahim. You never see hum for Allah azza wa jal. Okay, so that tells you firstly that you cannot take the we literally. Because if it was literally, lafdhan, zahiran, we, then it would be plural in all the persons, not just one person. That's the first indication. The second indication is that, the second observation is, language is not like mathematics. Mathematics is also a language. Equations are also a language, right? Calculus is also a language. And so much of our technology is based on the language of mathematics, right? So is engineering and architecture based on the language of mathematics. And in mathematics, 1 + 1 = 2. So straightforward, 1 + 1 will never equal 5, right? But language doesn't work that way. Language is actually unscientific and it's amathematical. So you could put two words together and they lose their original meaning. So you could say give, you know what give means. You know up, you know what up means. But if I say give up, completely different meaning, right? Give has a value in the dictionary, up has a value in the dictionary. When you add them together, you get something completely, and that's not just in English, it's in every language, right? And so what I'm trying to get at is there are many observations about language that are not mathematical. So what are those observations? They are cultural. They don't come from a dictionary. They don't come from rules of grammar. They don't come from logic. They come from a culture. So to give you another example of that, in the Arabic language, the sun is feminine, but the moon is masculine. And water is masculine, but alcohol is feminine. And the bucket and the well, for some reason, are both feminine in the Arabic language. And so just randomly, some things are feminine, right? The sword is masculine, but the stick, the asa, is feminine, right? So this does not come from some rule, it comes from the culture. So now we have to understand something about Semitic cultures, not just the Arab culture, the Aramaic cultures, the Hebrew cultures, the cultures of the Levant, the cultures of the Nabateans, like all of these, even the Iraqi culture, right? the Sumerians, all these regions, in their cultures, they use the word we when someone spoke in official terms. So if the king was sitting on the throne and somebody, he was going to declare that he's going to increase the taxes. We have decided to increase the taxes. It was us who decided it, etc. There's one guy, he doesn't have multiple personality disorder, but how is he talking? We, especially when they are declaring an official statement. When they're declaring an official statement. Now imagine that same king, somebody walks in to the king's court and says, "Yo man, long time, I haven't seen you." And the king's like, "You're going to talk to me like that?" He won't say, "You will talk to us like that." He will say, "You'll talk to me." When he gets upset, he's going to use what? Me. Right? Me. If his best friend came in to the court, he won't say, "Bring him to us." What's he going to say? "Bring him to me." So now what the usage in higher circles was, when they speak formally, they use we. And when they speak, you could argue emotionally, then they use I. So that's the difference between the we and the I. Now, if you observe that in the Quran, you will find, for example, there's a really nice paper on this, by the way, if you're interested. It's called Iltifat in the Quran. It's in English. Iltifat, I-L-T-I-F-A-A-T, Iltifat in the Quran, by Professor Abdul Halim. Professor Abdul Halim he graduated from Azhar in like the 50s or 60s, and he's been a professor of Quranic studies at Oxford University forever. And he's if you know my colleague Dr. Sohaib Saeed, he was presiding over his PhD. He was his mentor for his Quranic studies PhD. But anyway, so he's written a paper on these pronouns in the Quran. But one of the things he observes is in the Quran, every time Allah talks about water, he uses we. Right? وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً أَأَنْتُمْ أَنزَلْتُمُوهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْمُنزِلُونَ. Right? Over and over again, water, and then it's in other places too, but especially with water, we occurs. And it's interesting that the water in the Quran is associated with the grand throne of Allah. كَانَ عَرْشُهُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. Right? So it's declaring this official declaration of we're the ones who are providing this. Now, that's the royal side. But what about the ana? That ana also occurs in the Quran. You have ana at-tawwab ar-rahim. Right? نَبِّئْ عِبَادِي إِنَّنِي أَنَا إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا. Right? إِنِّي أُعَذِّبُهُ عَذَابًا لَا أُعَذِّبُهُ أَحَدًا مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. There's many ayat in the Quran where Allah is using I. But you'll notice in all of those ayat, one of two things. You will notice either Allah is giving an extreme love to someone, or He is giving an extreme anger to someone. Those are the only two cases you find ana. Now why not use huwa? That's the third one, huwa. Right? Huwa means what? You guys know? What does huwa mean? He. So why not just, instead of saying nahnu, like inna a'tainaka al-kawthar, why not say innahu a'taka al-kawthar? For example, right? What's the difference? The difference is basically, it's very simple. The first person is yourself. The second person is the person you're talking to. The third person is further away. So if you're talking about distance, the two close parties are first person and second person. And who's further away? Third person. Okay. Now, there's to give you an analogy so you understand the logic of this. Sometimes a teacher is teaching a lesson from the textbook, right? So he's just reading the text, or he's reading the PowerPoint, and the students are listening to the official text, and they have a copy of it also. They're just following along. And then the teacher stops at one point, he takes his glasses off and says, "I'm going to tell you something special here. I want to tell you something. I want to tell you a story." So he goes away from the textbook and he starts getting personal, right? So he was talking he, and all of a sudden he went I, we, etc. You understand? This is called iltifat in the Quran. So you have Allah talking officially, third person. But sometimes He'll just drop and just talk to you directly. And when He's talking to you directly, He'll use the first person. Ana and nahnu. It's as if when you hear ana and nahnu, Allah is not talking about Himself, Allah is talking to you. Right? And the final thing in all of this is, then why use huwa anyway? Why not just talk to us the entire time and never use huwa? Because huwa serves another purpose. Huwa serves the purpose of creating a distance. So there are two relationships we have with Allah. We have a relationship of love with Allah, a closeness with Allah, but we also have a relationship of respect for Allah and fear of Allah and the fear of the majesty of Allah. Now imagine, on the one hand, He's our king, He's our ruler, He's our owner. On the other hand, He loves us more than anybody else can love us. This is a very almost opposite two forces together, right? Because the closest thing to that maybe is parents. Sometimes you have a lot of love for your parents and you also have a lot of fear of your parents, right? But usually one of those two things dominates, right? A teacher tries to strike a balance with his students. A teacher wants the students to feel close to them, but he can't make them too close because then they'll run all over him and he won't be able to teach. So there has to be some authority also. So you'll notice that the huwa actually establishes a level of separation and helps for us to appreciate the authority aspect of Allah. And the ana and nahnu, particularly, they bring the conversation with Allah closer. So they create this taqarrub to Allah. So these are some of the communication psychology effects of these pronouns that are in the Quran that are found in other literature also. They're not just something limited to the Quran. It's a larger phenomenon. Sometimes we can understand things happening in the Quran from within the Quran, but the Quran is sometimes using things that exist already in the larger culture. And if you don't understand that, you won't understand what's happening within. Finally, I don't know much about, because there's lots of varieties in Arab cultures. The Moroccans are very different from the Algerians, and the Algerians are very different from the Egyptians, and there's lots and lots of varieties of the Arabs, right? And the Khalijis and all of that. But there's some more consistency in South Asian Muslims and many of their languages. So for example, in Urdu, when you're talking to an elder, you use the plural word. So you don't say tu, or tum, you say aap, or tum. And tum, we don't even use tum, but aap, which is actually plural. So it can actually be understood as plural, right? So we use that for, and people that are a big deal, like if your grandma and your grandpa are old school, they'll say ham aa gaye. نحن وصلنا. هي الواحدة تقول نحن وصلنا, right? So and I don't know if this is true with the Afghans and the Iranis also, but mami ayam, not mami ayam. Ya shoma, right? One person shoma. Tu kulli shaitanit. You and all your devils. No, I'm kidding. But they'll say all of you for someone out of respect. Antum. They'll say antum, right? But I don't think we do that as much in Arabic, at least in my limited observation. We say more, we add hadra. So we say, كيف حضرتك يا سيدي, or something like that. But we do say, sometimes I've heard it also, كيف أنتم? Right? كيف أنتم? ما حالكم? You might say that for someone who's bigger in age. You might not say that for a child, حالك, but حالكم for an elder, right? So the plural out of respect is a phenomenon that does exist, right? So that's a few observations about that.
Almost 300,000 souls have already been gifted a Bayyinah TV sponsorship, and the impact has been immense. But over 50,000 eager students who can't afford it are still waiting to begin their journey. You can help. Visit bayyinah.com/gift to share the gift of the Quran so that another soul can explore the depths of Allah's words.
Their access lasts a year, but its impact may last a lifetime. I want you to help me help them and give the gift of Bayyinah TV today.